Okay, guys, we're going to be starting the rally, the Raise the Rates rally, and to acknowledge that we are on Coast Salish territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations, and we are having this rally on their unceded territory. So give thanks to the people, give thanks to the Creator for this wonderful, awesome day.
The idea of today is it's 7 years since welfare was last raised in the province of British Columbia, and most of that raised 7 years ago went straight to the landlords because they put the rents up. A single person on welfare is $77 worth off. Somebody with a disability is $114 worth off. Yet British Columbia is an extremely rich province. The government of British Columbia has made a political decision to subsidize the richest people in the province at the cost of the rest of us.
Let's start!
Tax the rich to house the poor!
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 Raise the rates now!
Raise the rates now!
This walk today is to highlight the fact that British Columbia has plenty of money, that it's a political choice by the politicians to subsidize the rich at the expense of the poor. So we're starting here at Burke's. Burke's the jeweler sales in Canada alone were $150 million last year. Their head guy gets over $1 million a year. If you go in there and have some spare change, you can buy a ring for over $1 million. Yeah. So today what we're going to do here is have a symbolic wedding ceremony. As you know, for a long time, the government of British Columbia has been having a very cozy relationship with the 1%. But here today we have Mr. 1%. And our glorious Premier of British Columbia. And they're going to get married with a ring that cost $41,000. You ask why $41,000? Well, the tax cuts that the government gave to the richest 1% of people in British Columbia are worth $41,000 a year. So the richest 1% got a tax cut, not an income. They got a tax cut more than most working people in British Columbia earn a year. The average wage in BC is less than $41,000. The tax cut was $41,000. We're a rather liberal faith here. We have a woman priest who is going to conduct the ceremony, and I will hand it over to her to conduct the happy union of politics and wealth that symbolizes the nature of British Columbia.
I have the ring plate. So I hear you two have been in bed together for quite a long time. You might as well make it official, don't you think? I think it's time we put a ring on it. So, do you, Christy Clark, do you promise to give more and more tax cuts to the richest 1%?
I do.
And do you, richest 1%, do you promise to lounge around in luxury until death do you part?
As I have been doing for some centuries. With this ring, I thee wed.
Do you promise to be true for richer and richer and ignore the poor?
For richer and richer and richer and ignore the poor.
Okay, I now pronounce you man and wife, or man and monster, or monster and monster. You may kiss the bride.
So, here we have it. The province of British Columbia in bed and married to the richest 1%. What we always suspected, now we know it's the truth. End the war on the poor! End the war on the poor!
of extreme wealth. For you to put one foot in that door will cost you $6,500. That's what it costs to have a membership to get into the Vancouver Club. What do those folks talk about when they're eating their $24 sandwich?
How much their yacht cost?
Well, Harold's going to explain that for us.
The people inside want austerity. I mean, their main goal is that they keep their wealth up. They want to push people's wages down, and they also want to cut social programs.
We want to demonstrate visually the inequality of the province.
So, who wants to be the richest 20% in British Columbia? Yeah, we got one here. And Diane, okay. Diane, okay, you take one end of the rope.
I get a diamond ring with this. So
And you take the other end. And you go that way. And Diane, you go that way. Stretch your right out. This is the wealth that the top 20% of British Columbia owns. 75% of the total wealth in BC is owned by the richest 20%. Stretch that out. So this is the next richest 20%. That's already a dramatic decrease. Just wait till we get to the bottom. We got 75% of the total wealth here. We got 17% of the total wealth here. Okay, and the middle class. Thanks, Bill, my lovely assistant, Bill Hopwood. Thank you. We got the middle class being squeezed and squeezed. That's only 7% of the total wealth. Okay, the next one down, the lower middle class. You're going to have to get close to each other. That's only 1%. I have the poorest 20% in BC. I have no rope because they have no wealth. They're in debt on average $9,000.
5 banks in total made $29 billion profit last year. Think what you could do with $29 billion profit. Raise welfare, build houses, have a decent environment, give our kids an education, have a good health system. Okay, we're just going to pause here for a minute before we go to the bank. Because I want you to look down that way. So that big tall building there, at the top of that building is a condo. The condo cost $25 million. Allegedly, the person who owns it doesn't even live in it full time. It's a part-time resident that costs $25 million. You could build over 100 units of high-quality social housing for that money. And you can't quite see the building on the corner there, just behind. On about the 10th floor of that building is the office of the BC Liberals. That is where they plan, if we give you tax cuts, will you give us money for our election campaign?
Tax the rich to house the poor. 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 Tax the big to house the poor.
Raise the rates now!
Tax the banks to house the poor.
Raise the rates now!
Tax the banks to house the poor.
Raise the rates now!
Tax the banks to house the poor.
Raise the rates now!
Executive officer of the Royal Bank received a salary of $12.6 million at the same time as firing 1,100 workers. The Royal Bank also tried to hire temporary foreign workers while firing Canadian workers. The most shameful thing of all, the Canadian and U.S. governments gave $140 billion to banks during the 2008 and 2009 financial crisis. But the federal government of Canada simply will not provide a national housing strategy that would help people living in poverty. That shows you where this federal government's priorities are.
I think we've demonstrated today that we live in a city that is deeply divided. For the last little while, we've been wandering the streets of the wealthy, of a condo that cost $25 million, with a club that cost $6,500 to join, walking past the towers of the banks that made $26 billion last year. And the core message we want to get across is poverty is the result of political decisions. The government of British Columbia decides what the minimum wage is. The government of British Columbia decides what the taxes are. They decide to give $41,000 a year to every one of the richest 1% in BC. And they say they have no money. They decided to give $3 billion in tax cuts to the rich and the big corporations. And they say they have no money. The government is making a political decision to be in bed, to be married to the 1%. We are highlighting the fact we want to change. And we're not going to stop till we get that change. We will keep campaigning until we tax the banks to house the poor.